We need to warn you before viewing this. This is graphic and contains subjects like child abuse, child sexual abuse, suicide, and tragedy. What you're about to hear is incredibly troubling.
Monday morning, friends report the entire Powell family missing. Monday afternoon, Josh Powell returns home with his 2 boys, but not his wife.
At this point, the facts just don't add up to say what might have happened the night of December 6th.
Cops have a lot of questions for Josh Powell, and friends are now sharing some disturbing details about the family.
Susan's friends are also opening up, saying she was afraid of Josh. She feared that he would kidnap the kids if she left him. She even drafted a living will.
Well, still no sign of Susan Powell, but we are hearing disturbing new information from some of her friends.
Apparently, about a year and a half ago, Susan wrote a note.
She wrote saying if she ended up dead, it wouldn't be suicide. A neighbor told us that Susan had a deadline. If their marriage didn't turn around by their anniversary, which is this spring, she would divorce her husband.
And you think he might have done this intentionally? Yes.
It's a moment of crisis, one she tried to prevent moments earlier in another call to 911 after dropping off Josh Powell's 2 sons for a supervised visit.
Something really weird has happened. The kids went into the house and the parent will not let me in the door.
He grabbed the kids, locked her out of the house, and immediately the house went up in flames.
Instantly, a flood of calls from neighbors.
Fire, there's a house on fire explosion. The house just blew up and it's on fire.
I am not able to live without my sons. I'm sorry to everyone I've hurt. Goodbye.
Josh Powell was born on January 20th, 1976, to Steven and Terry Powell. He was raised in the Mormon faith. At a young age, Josh was intelligent. Steven fell out of his faith and for a while still attended the Mormon church. Eventually, he became vocal about the church and told Josh that the church was a fraud and that, quote, all humans are animals and they should be allowed to have sex with whoever or whatever they wanted, end quote. This was against everything the LSD church stood for. Steven also began to have fantasies about married women. When his wife confronted him, he gave her the impression that Steve might do something to make his fantasy a reality. In Josh's younger days, he had tried to start a relationship with Suzanne's older sister Mary. Suzanne was 12 at the time. Now an adult, Suzanne and Josh met at an LDS service called Institute. Josh would eventually begin dating Suzanne Cox. Josh wanted to get married to Suzanne very quickly. While they were filling out their marriage application, they were fighting the entire time. The signs were there. As soon as their marriage was legal, Josh changed. Josh was constantly late. He did what he wanted, when he wanted to do it.
For years, Steve Powell lived with a camcorder in his hand, videotaping important events, weddings, graduations.
In 2002, Suzanne and Josh were evicted and forced to live back with Steve. This is where Steve developed an unhealthy fascination with his son's wife. Steve constantly filmed her. Suzanne caught Steve trying to watch her undress at one point. Steve claimed she would come on to him. These claims were exaggerated. Steve's fascination turned into obsession, filming her any chance he could get. He would steal her panties and would watch her from underneath the door. Steve became a sexual predator. Josh became a truck driver, which would take him away from Suzanne for long periods of time. Steve confessed his feelings for Suzanne after Suzanne accepted a ride from Steve to her mother's. Steve thought he turned the camera off, but it turned out that he didn't. Steve told her that she was all he could think about. She rejected his advances. After the drive, Steve reviewed the video footage and spun Suzanne's reaction into a soft no.
And I know she felt it. I mean, I know she couldn't have missed it. She's not naive either, I know, from what I've read in her journals. But if she didn't notice that, she did. She had to.
Steve was delusional. Suzanne told Josh and Steve would go on the defensive, convincing his son that there was nothing to worry about.
It was definitely a romantic obsession, yeah. I mean, Susan's a beautiful woman, and when a beautiful woman comes onto you like that, it's really hard to resist that kind of a thing. I mean, maybe it's just me.
Eventually, Suzanne and Josh would move away. They left behind a storage unit to which Steve helped himself to. Inside, there were Suzanne's journals and photo books. Steve's obsession had no bounds. Steve was upset when he found nothing about him in the journals. Susan writes a letter addressed to family and friends, warning them of Josh. In the letter, Susan says, quote, Josh threatened to destroy her if she filed for divorce. She then says that if she dies, quote, it may not be an accident even if it may look like one, unquote. The letter was kept in Susan's safe deposit box, which only she had access to. Tuesday, July 29th, 2008, 12:33 p.m., Susan Cox Powell records this video of herself, documenting her family's assets.
Covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented.
Sunday, December 6th, 2009, 12 p.m., Susan Cox Powell takes her two sons, Charlie and Braden, to services at her local ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, afternoon to 5 p.m. A neighbor visits Susan and leaves at approximately 5 p.m. as Susan lies down for a nap. This is the last time Susan was seen alive by anyone outside of her family's home. 2:29 p.m. Susan calls a friend from her cell phone. This is the last call she made or received on her phone. 5 p.m. Josh Powell says he is taking Charlie and Braden sledding. A neighbor heard a car alarm coming from inside the Powell's closed garage. All the lights in the home appeared to be off.
Well, we live like one house away from that house.
Marco Bastidas is a Powell neighbor. He says he heard something curious at the Powell home the day before Susan was reported missing. It, he says, was 11:45, Sunday night.
We just came home. We got out of the car, and then we just heard the alarm go off.
Bastidas says the Powell's car alarm is blaring inside the garage and continues for at least 2 minutes.
And then my sister told me, you want to go and tell them? And I'm like, no, they can hear it. If we can hear the alarm, they can probably hear it. They'll get up and they'll turn it off.
At the time, Bastidas didn't think it was significant.
Monday, December 7th, 2009, 12 to 12:30 a.m. Josh Powell says he left home with Charlie and Braden to go camping at Simpson Springs Campground in a remote area of Utah's West Desert. During this time, he claimed Susan was at home asleep after cleaning a red stain from the carpet. The campground is about a 2-hour drive from Rest Valley City. Temperatures were below freezing that night.
What time did you go camping, would you say?
I got out to a pretty late start.
9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The daycare provider for Charlie and Braden contacts Josh Powell's mother, Terica, and his sister, Jennifer Graves, concerned that she could not reach either parent after they failed to drop off their sons. Terica and Jennifer call the police, who break into the Powell home worried that the family may be victim of carbon monoxide poisoning. Police find 2 box fans blowing on a wet spot on the carpet. Susan does not show up to work, and she is reported as missing. 5 p.m. Josh Powell returns home with Charlie and Braden and is greeted by the police, who find that he had Susan's cell phone in his van with the SIM card removed. Police also find a generator, blankets, a gas canister, tarps, and a shovel. Josh was unable to explain why he had Susan's phone or why the SIM was taken out. Josh was immediately taken to the West Valley City Police Department to be questioned. Note: Powell was never arrested in the case, despite the long-held belief by many that he murdered Susan and covered it up, possibly with the help of his father Steven and his brother Michael. All three are now dead.
It was Michael's car, however, that left police with the most unanswered questions.
I owned a 1997 Ford Taurus.
That's the car Michael and his sister Alina drove from Washington to Utah, but it didn't get them home.
On December 23rd, 2009, 2 days before Christmas and about 2 weeks after Susan disappeared, Josh Powell's brother, Michael, sold his car to this salvage lot in Pendleton, Oregon for about $100.
The car had actually broken down in Baker City. Michael and Alina called AAA for help, and despite there being 4 wrecking yards and repair shops within 3 miles, the pair insisted the car be towed nearly 100 miles away to Pendleton. Police wouldn't find out about the Taurus for another 21 months.
Detectives wanted that car. They actually came up here with a flatbed trailer and pulled it out of the yard. It was missing a few pieces, but largely still intact.
In September 2011, cadaver dogs searched Michael's salvaged car, indicating the presence of human decomposition in at least 2 places, the back seat and the trunk. But samples sent to the Utah State Crime Lab, including a hair found on the carpet, did not match Susan's DNA. Frustrating for police, who told Cold they thought they had finally caught a big break.
The lab called me and I went down and sat with them, and I had butterflies. I was excited, I was nervous, but then again I was skeptical because it was just going to be another swift kick in the guts, and at the end of the day, it was.
Investigators still had questions.
Hello? Is Michael there? This is Michael.
Detectives flew to Minnesota, where Michael was living, for a surprise interview. True to form, he gave them nothing to go on.
They asked me, did you kill Susan? I said no. They asked me, do I know anything about it? I said no.
Did they ask you to take a polygraph?
No, they did not.
Did you offer to take one?
No, I did not.
Ann Bremner didn't know about the potential importance of the Taurus when she questioned him.
That piece was about to come down on his head, I think he thought.
But she did know police had their microscope on Michael.
Did you ever learn that the West Valley City Police were looking at you as a potential accessory after the fact in Susan's disappearance?
Police were never able to fully pursue their theories about Michael's involvement. He took his own life in February of 2013.
I just miss her, and I love her. My boys love her. I mean, a lot of people love her, and she's just wonderful. And so, all I ask is that anyone who can just help us try to find her. I'm just trying to think of ways to do that. So,
any clues as to where she was at? Or?
I don't even have a clue.
What about what you've been?
I gotta go get my boys because they're.
How old boys?
They're doing okay.
Yeah. So, were they?
I'm sorry. I
just answer me.
Keep doing this.
When did you last see her then?
Sunday night.
What time or when?
I just have to go get my boys. I'm sorry. Thank you for the support. That's all I can say is just thank you for the support. Did you want to?
Are you his father?
Thank you.
Brandon. Okay.
Police interview young Charlie Powell, who says that the camping trip took place, but tells police that Susan had come with them, but did not return. A few weeks later, Charlie's schoolteacher says he claims his mother is dead. Chuck and Judy Cox would also later say that while at daycare, Braden drew a picture of the van with 3 people inside and told daycare workers that, quote, "Mommy was in the trunk," unquote.
Spoke with some of our other detectives, and you're gonna have to wait here with us. You're not gonna go anywhere. One of our detectives just interviewed your children, and your children are telling our detectives that Mom went with you guys last night, and that she didn't come back.
She did not go with us.
Okay. Well, with that, just getting that information, you're not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to let you leave. I'm going to detain you. You sit right here. If you want a lawyer and you want to talk, or you want to change your mind and talk, or take a CBSA test, then we can do those things. But
now with that in mind,
They know that she didn't go with us.
well, here's the thing, kids are very honest. That's one thing I've learned in the years of doing this job. That when kids talk to us, we'll listen because they're honest. And they never lie, they don't make things up. So if they're saying they were with you, they were with you. Okay, I mean, she was with you. So I have to believe the kids. So now it's gonna be up to you if you wanna help us find her and help us get to the bottom of what really happened here. That's what we're here for, okay? We're gonna find out either way, with your help or without your help. I honestly don't need your help. I feel confident enough in my investigation and his investigation and everybody else involved. We have great detectives in this department that will find out what happened. We'll get to the bottom of this with your help or without your help. So I want to give you the opportunity to help us and tell us what really happened. Because you're the only one that knows.
Nothing that happened. She was not with us. And if my kids said that...
So your kids lie then? Do your kids lie?
Sometimes they do. I mean, if they said that she was with us, they know that's not true.
So if they
and
say...
if they said that she was with us, then I guess that would put her out in the Pony Express.
Okay, and that's my concern.
He has said almost nothing in public for nearly a year, but now Josh Powell is speaking out. In an interview with the Salt Lake Tribune, Powell calls his missing wife extremely unstable.
He believes that the police have mishandled this investigation by focusing on him.
Powell is holding firm to his story, maintaining that the night his wife went missing, he took his 2 young boys out camping in the dead of night during a blizzard.
He is stuck to the story that she ran away and that he didn't do anything with her.
Powell remains the only person of interest in the case, although he hasn't been charged.
He believes that she can return and that she might return any time.
Powell has done little to help find his wife. Instead, within weeks, he moved his children out of the family home and out of state. And surprising new accusations from Steven Powell, Josh's father. He claims Susan ran off with another man, saying, quote, she's very sexually motivated. Josh and Steven are now addressing that very curious wet stain that was found on the living room rug, drying by 2 fans the morning after Susan disappeared. They say that Susan was trying to clean the rug of a red stain, likely caused by juice spilled by the kids, but police haven't said anything like that. Josh Powell is blaming Susan's family for causing her pressure, claiming they want her to be perfect. Powell says Susan doesn't have as much strength as they'd like to think she has.
There are a lot of tensions within the family that are not being resolved, that can't be resolved. And it's especially catastrophic when people are pointing fingers at one another.
Powell also blames the press for vilifying him, but says they will eventually turn on Susan, saying, quote, she'll be chewed up like hamburger when she comes back.
Did you kill your wife?
No.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance of your wife?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing. People who know me know that I'm a good dad. I work hard. I put my sons first. I was a good husband. I took care of my family.
And I see you're still wearing your wedding band.
Yeah.
You still love her?
I guess you could say that I still love her.
At times, he stopped the interview, claiming he needed time to collect himself.
Why take your 2 young sons camping after midnight, freezing cold temperatures?
Well, we just go out and do things that are fun.
But it's after midnight. You know, shouldn't your sons be sleeping? Weren't they sleeping?
People who know me know that time is hard for me to keep track of. I tend to be spontaneous. I do things in the spur of the moment.
Why not call work the next morning to say, hey, I was out camping, I'm not going to be in today.
To be honest, Saturday was a blur. I was convinced it was still Saturday.
And the search for Susan Powell continues. Just last week, West Valley City Police following up on new leads, searching these abandoned mines in the Nevada desert for clues. While Josh and his father, Steven Powell, have been making parts of Susan's old journals public, claiming it provides possible reasons for her disappearance.
What do those journals tell you about Susan's life growing up?
Susan was very emotionally abused as a child. Her mother has a very angry personality. Her father is very manipulative.
Josh Powell claims that at times Susan was unstable, had even contemplated suicide at different points in her life.
She has walked out the front door in her underwear, started walking down the street. And at the time when all this stuff was happening, it was mortifying to me. I tried to protect her from doing things that I thought might embarrass her or our family in that respect, you know.
Josh says he thinks Susan may still be alive and wonders if she left him and their 2 young children for another man, a claim police will not substantiate.
Has she ever been unfaithful to you?
Never that I know of.
Then why do you think that she would just run off with another man?
She's a very sexual person.
Josh Powell's father, Steven Powell, then goes on to make the bizarre claim that he's had a sexual relationship with his daughter-in-law.
Susan was very, very sexual with me. She was very flirtatious. I mean, I'm her father-in-law, and she would do a lot of things that I mean, she did it. I did. I mean, we interacted in a lot of sexual ways because Susan enjoys doing that.
Do you think a part of you started falling in love with Susan?
That's pretty likely, yeah. I mean, yeah, I would say so. And there's no question in my mind that the feelings were mutual.
Susan's best friend, Kirstie Hallowell, and Josh Powell's estranged sister reveal Steven Powell had made unwanted sexual advances against Susan. Steven Powell denies the claim.
In a type of shorthand, Kirstie tried to keep up as Susan recounted the details, some of them bizarre.
And I am quite sure that most of the stuff Josh was spouting came from his dad.
Like Josh's belief that the Republicans were to blame for their marital problems.
Is he crazy? Has he gone off his rocker? What in the world?
The father-in-law was how she didn't want to be alone with him.
She did communicate that to us. We talked to the police about Steve Powell early on in the investigation, and we still feel he knows where my daughter is. And, you know, although we can't give up on our daughter until we find her.
Thursday, September 22nd, 2011. Police arrest Steven Powell on child pornography and voyeurism charges after police find thousands of images of young girls and women, including Susan, dressing. The photos were taken without their knowledge, and 2 neighbors' girls were victims. Charlie and Braden Powell are placed in state custody while police investigate to see if anyone else knew about Steven's activities.
The father-in-law of a missing Utah woman is facing several years in prison. He'd been accused of taking photos and videotaping women, including his daughter-in-law, Susan Powell, without them knowing it. Her parents have long believed that Steve Powell knows something about what happened to their daughter, but authorities had been focusing their case on Susan's husband, Josh.
The jury finds the defendant, Stephen Craig Powell, guilty of the crime of possession of depictions of a minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct in the 2nd degree.
Monday afternoon, a judge announced the verdict for Steven Powell. Investigators say they found the stash of hundreds of images of naked girls during an evidence search in the disappearance of his daughter-in-law, Susan Cox Powell.
They were photos of these females taking a bath and in a bathroom.
Detectives testify they found a disc with 2 folders labeled Taking a Bath 1 and 2. Investigators say the folders contained hundreds of pictures of girls living right next to Powell as they took a bath and used the bathroom without them knowing he was watching. Investigators say some of the pictures showed Powell nude and masturbating, and police say they found Powell's journal where he talked about the photos.
Friday, September 23rd, 2011. The Cox family files in court to get custody of Charlie and Braden. A judge temporarily also rules that Josh Powell cannot publish Susan's teenage diaries online. Tuesday, January 31st, 2012. A website created days before the custody hearing by Josh Powell, with help from his family, is disabled. The site had claimed Chuck and Judy Cox abused Charles and Braden. Police find hundreds of disturbing images on Josh's computer, including simulated child pornography, bestiality, incest.
A custody hearing is scheduled today for the children of missing Utah woman Susan Powell, who have now been placed in the care of her parents. The 2 boys had been living with their husband, Josh Powell, and his father, Steven. They were removed last week when Steven Powell was arrested on charges of possessing child pornography. Josh Powell is also under investigation for child porn. In court yesterday, Josh Powell said he's done nothing wrong, and he grew emotional when discussing his wife.
I did not harm her. I did not have anything to do with her disappearance. I have never been charged or accused of any crime.
Wednesday, February 1st, 2012. A Washington state judge rules that 7-year-old Charlie and 5-year-old Braden will remain with Chuck and Judy Cox. The judge orders Josh Powell to get a psychological evaluation by a court-appointed examiner. It's found that Powell has narcissistic personality traits, shown by his inability to admit even small personal shortcomings or weaknesses. The examiner also finds that Powell has, quote, adequate, unquote, parenting skills, steady employment, and no criminal record. The examiner decides to recommend that Josh Powell has supervised visits with his sons several times a week.
I was leaning in through the passenger door looking at him. He's just a guy. This guy with a couple of kids. Nothing really jumped out at me then, other than he was obviously a liar.
In the minutes after Josh Powell returned from his bizarre winter camping trip, police, looking for Susan, knew something wasn't right.
I asked him why he wasn't calling anybody back, why he didn't call me. He told me that he was trying to conserve his batteries. He didn't have a charger, but the charger's plugged in his car. I could see that.
Police would find more clues in what on the surface seemed to be just another family minivan, power tools, a shovel, even Susan's cell phone. But having his missing wife's phone wasn't enough for police to put him in handcuffs.
We didn't have a legal right taking Susan's phone.
Fast forward to the next day. The van looked noticeably different. Gone were the tools and shovel, generator, and unopened camping equipment. Most everything was gone. But when Josh showed up at the police station for an interview, he had no idea detectives were going to search his van one more time.
Your car is ours. We're not going to let you have your car.
As police served their search warrant, they soon found out the vehicle wasn't completely empty.
There was some garbage sacks that he had hidden in a compartment in the floorboard in the middle of the van. Inside one of those bags was burnt sheetrock, heavily burnt sheetrock. Like he had, when you put the sheetrock together, there's a hole. And he had heavily destroyed something over the top of that sheetrock.
A mystery, melted, charred, by a man determined to make it disappear.
And he obviously wanted to destroy it, dispose of it, because he had it hidden in his van, along with the garbage from the kitchen that was there the day before when we were inside the home. So he had those 2 garbage sacks there that he was going to dispose of somewhere else.
But Josh never got the chance. Unfortunately for investigators, these clues he left behind never led to anything. And to this day, no one knows what Josh destroyed, not even the FBI.
But, there's assumptions that, it was a cell phone or GPS or a hard drive.
Sunday, February 5th, 2012. Josh Powell kills his 2 sons himself. After social worker Elizabeth Griffin arrives at Josh Powell's trailer with Charlie and Braden for a supervised visit, Powell slams the door on Griffin after his children were inside. Griffin called 911 and tried to get inside. The 36-year-old Powell tried to murder Charlie and Braden by using a hatchet. After Powell fails to kill them with a hatchet, he sets off an explosion, killing his children and himself.
There's two little boys in the house, and they're 5 and 7, and there's an adult man. He has supervised visitation, and he blew up the house and the kids.
Josh Powell reached out to friends and family in the hours before the explosion. He'd already donated his son's toys, taken thousands of dollars out of his bank account, and purchased gallons of gasoline.
Two little boys couldn't somehow be protected from their father, a man that so many people feared was a killer. The fire and apparent explosion was so powerful it shook neighbors' homes and sent bits of insulation from the house raining down on the neighborhood.
All of a sudden, the house shook and I ran outside and you can see this black smoke.
Minutes earlier, just before 12:30 Sunday afternoon, 7-year-old Charles and 5-year-old Braden Powell had been escorted into the home by a caseworker for a court-ordered visitation with their father, Josh Powell. Police say Powell forced the caseworker out, locked the doors. She saw flames and called 911, just as a series of blasts tore the house apart. Across town, Josh Powell's attorney says he received an email from Josh stamped 1205. It was 3 words: "I'm sorry. Goodbye."
This wasn't tragic. This was deeply wrong. This was evil. You do not kill little kids.
Police found 3 bodies in the center of the rubble, 2 children and an adult. They say there is no doubt that Josh Powell wanted to end his life and take his little boys with him, and say an accelerant was used to make the house burn quickly.
He grabbed the kids, locked her out of the house, and immediately the house went up in flames.
There he is. There he is. You see him?
Sources tell ABC News Powell's mood had changed drastically in recent days. He was more calm than usual, but also seemed excited about the future. He was last seen in public at this custody hearing on Wednesday, during which a judge ordered him to undergo a psychological examination and lie detector test while the kids remained with his missing wife's parents.
We're happy to have them with us. We want the best for the kids.
The decision was a blow to Powell, who recently lost custody of the 2 boys and remained the only person of interest in the disappearance of his wife, Susan. Josh told police that he last saw his wife around midnight in December of 2009, before taking his 2 sons on a late-night camping trip in the Utah desert.
You know, I got out to a pretty late start.
This morning, the Cox family, which first lost a daughter, is now dealing with the almost unbearable deaths of their grandsons. The Cox families released a statement saying that they are devastated, that they always feared Josh Powell might harm the children. And there's also this bit of intrigue from their attorney, who says that the 2 little boys recently had started to speak about the night their mother vanished, saying they recalled going out camping late at night with their dad and their mother riding in the car's trunk. So unbelievably sad out here.
When Josh's father, Steven, is told about the deaths while in jail, he appears unconcerned by the news and gets angry at those who notified him. 2 weeks later, Steven Powell would invoke his Fifth Amendment right to not answer questions about Susan's case. Steven was obsessed with Susan, and many think he knows what happened to her body. Tuesday, July 11th, 2017. Steven Powell is released from prison. Monday, July 23, 2018. Steven Powell dies in a Tacoma, Washington hospital. The sheriff's office was aware that Powell was in the hospital, but was told he was recovering. Where is Susan Powell? She's most likely not alive. Did Josh murder his wife? Did Steven? We will continue to follow this story until we have answers.